Hey Dark Rifles. In the last video, we talked about outmaneuvering our enemy and kind of what that means. And we described that outmaneuvering means that we are going to, using an ambush mentality, we find ways in order to attack through weakness, to get behind or to the side of our opponent to induce shock. And shock creates hopelessness, panic, and leads to their defeat. In this video, we're going to talk about outfighting and what that means. And you'll see that the key word here is combinations. And we'll talk to what Sun Tzu has to say. So there are not more than 5 musical notes, yet the combination of these 5 give rise to more melodies than can ever be heard. So what does he mean by that? To me, what that means is that in our battalion, we have our weapons. We have our M4 rifles. We have our 320s. We have our 240 machine guns, our saws, our M2s, our Mark 19s. We have our mortars, 81s, 60s, 120s. We have our javelins. And the combination, each of these weapons has their capability, but the real power comes in how we combine them. And as we combine them at the right place and the right time effectively, that gives us our symphony of destruction. So think about, again, combining and how we use that, and that's really the key to outfighting our opponent. So not only do we combine our weapons, but we have combined 3 key principles that I want to talk you through right quick. The first of these is combined arms. Now, a lot of us have probably been to combined arms rehearsals. We've been to, you've heard combined arms all the time. Doctrinally, the previous doctrine talked about combined arms maneuver, but there's a little bit more to it than that. Big Army will say combined arms is how you use attack aviation, artillery, engineers, in order to win the day. But what does that mean to our battalion? It means a little bit more. So first off, combined arms is a theory. And what that theory involves that when you engage someone with a weapon system, let's say an M4, so if I start shooting at somebody, their reaction typically will be to take cover, to get out of my direct fire. They'll jump behind a berm or some kind of trench that I can't hit them anymore with my direct fire. So with that, if I stop right there, then we're pretty much at a standoff. But if I use combined arms and I anticipate this, then I start shooting at my opponent. He jumps into a piece of cover, and knowing this, I have my grenadier able to then immediately sight in and drop mortars on top of him. So if I'm sighted in, he stands up. I shoot him and cut him down. If he jumps into a hole, I have a grenadier or a grenade to drop in that and blow him out. So no matter what he does, he's in a no-win situation. Add to it our capability of javelins. So then if this individual, again, calls in an armored vehicle, and we have our javelin to destroy that. So our combination of our machine guns, direct fire, our grenades, our mortars, when they jump into holes and cover, and then our javelins really can, if we use them appropriately, can create a no-win situation for the enemy. And that's what combined arms theory was all about. It really, to understand it too, it really came back from the stormtroops of World War I. These stormtroops of World War I was the solution to what they called the riddle of the trenches, where nobody could figure out how to break through this trench warfare system. The Germans came up with an interesting solution that's really how we borrow to this day, that they would take individual squads and instead of arming them all with the same weapons, as in times past, they gave each one a capability. One would hold a flamethrower, one would hold a long-range rifle, one would have a machine gun, one would have a mortar. That way, no matter the situation they encountered, they would have a solution. And then they would infiltrate in, break through, and then attack from the rear and behind. And they almost won World War I using these tactics. Think for a minute of your fire team and your squads. Why aren't they armed with the same type of weapons in times past? Notice that you're arrayed in a combined arms formation with machine guns, with your 320 grenades, and your javelins. But it's a matter of you using it as they were meant to be in combined arms warfare. So that's combined arms. Next, so then you combine combined arms with the theory of maneuver. We talked about that. Basically, all that is in this context is, remember the old adage that Andrew Jackson said at the Battle of New Orleans, we wait until we see the whites of their eyes. Instead of shooting at people, at long range, and we take them under fire gradually, we want to induce shock by opening up all at once with everything we have. So 1 minute everything's fine, the next minute they're caught in this hailstorm of death. And that really is another combination of maneuver with combined arms. Lastly, the principle is asymmetry. What this really means, the best way I remember it is there's a Greek myth called the Antaeus principle. And there's a myth about Hercules and during his big, his tasks that he had to do for the gods. One of them was to slay a giant. And this particular giant couldn't be killed if he was fighting in his own country. So in the story, Hercules, remember, he goes in his country, shoots him with an arrow. This giant falls over, but he doesn't know that he cannot be killed in his own country, and this giant comes back alive. Athena later appears to Hercules and tells him the key is the giant can't be killed as long as he's in his own country, but if you bring him into your country, then he can be slain. Hercules later then clubs him, pulls him in, drags him in his own country, cuts his head off, and that was the end of the giant. So what does that mean to us? So you and I are raised in kind of a lot of people in the U.S. Army have this idea that tanks kill tanks, infantry kills infantry, artillery kills artillery. And you'll see that at NTC with these big artillery duels and that sort of thing. That's not out fighting your opponent. So we always try to fight asymmetrically. When we fight symmetrically, is infantry on infantry, artillery on artillery, tanks on tanks. And that's not very smart. Fighting asymmetrically is infantry killing tanks, infantry killing artillery, artillery killing infantry, and that kind of thing. And that's really important to understand because really, what kills infantry? Artillery does. World War I, 70% of all casualties was done by artillery. Remember that. Tanks, what kills tanks? Infantry kills tanks. You talk to any tanker, what they don't want to be is in tight, closed spaces, urban terrain, forest, because they can't see the infantry. And that just goes on and on. So what does that mean to us? It's foolish for us to fight tanks in the big open desert where the tanks are the king. What we have to do is figure out how to get tanks into infantry country. Terrain, where big tank-proof country, rocks, cliffs, really restrictive terrain, urban environments. We need to figure out how to use artillery to kill infantry. And what do we have? We have our 120 mortars. So really, fighting asymmetry is us bringing those giants, artillery, tanks, aviation, into infantry country. And we'll talk more about that as we move on in these videos. So as we combined our weapons, our machine guns, our mortars, and then combine these three principles, that's how we outfight our opponent. So let's bring it all together. So what does outfighting our opponent means? It means, first, we use combined arms. We use our machine guns, mortars, javelins, and grenades, and work to always use them together to put the enemy in a no-win situation. Then we use maneuver. That's attacking all at once from an unexpected direction. This induces shock. And finally, we use the Antaeus principle of asymmetry, fighting the giants and bringing people into infantry country. Using combined arms, maneuver, and asymmetry, that gives us a big fancy word that generals like to say, lethality. But what that means to me is we're highly capable of killing. So let's put all these three together and let's see how this could work. So here's our enemy. We're tasked to conduct an attack. So remember, outthink our enemy. So we're going to do in our planning phase, we're going to decide what is winning, where is he going to raise his forces, how he's going to use his tactics, techniques, and procedures, and come up with a plan. Then we send out our reconnaissance, and we start hunting to where he is. So we send out our hunting force to find the enemy. And remember, with maneuver, we always going to, as Patton would say, you grab by the nose and you kick him in the ass. So we hunt to find the enemy. We know where to look because we've been out thinking him. So we use our reconnaissance to hunt and find. Then we find where he's weak and find where his flank is. And then, once this fight gets going on, though, we have to set up a support by fire position. Now, what principles could we use in the support by fire position to fix them? This is, again, where we bring in combined arms and put them in a no-win situation. Then we start attacking all at once from an unexpected direction. We look for an assailable flank. So now we're combining combined arms plus maneuver. and we set up another support by fire position. And here, this support by fire position goes back and start using combined arms, machine guns, mortars, javelins, to put the enemy in a no-win situation. And finally, when we're ready to destroy them, we find a way and we maneuver back behind to kill them. And that's checkmate. Once you get behind them, you induce shock, you induce panic, and that brings about their defeat. So the combination of hunt, racing to their side, and then behind them leads to us to lethality, or us highly being able to kill and defeat our enemy. So that's how we come up with hunt, race, kill. So when you see these words, when you see hunt, race, kill, now you understand where they come from. They mean hunt means out-thinking your opponent, race means out-maneuvering your opponent, and killing means out-fighting them. All right, thanks for watching. Hunt, race, kill.